stream. I'm Moshe coming to you from Israel and the Galilee. And it's the 12th of July. Wow, it's really moving quick, huh? It's Sunday, Yom Rishon in Hebrew. It's about almost 7:20 in the morning here. It feels warm. 75 already. Maybe that's because we had the air conditioning on all night. It was cold. 91 degrees is the high. Not that bad. 91 is, for us, it's pretty okay. When I lived in New York and we hit 90, they would call it a heat wave or an alert, Drink fluids, stay in the house, stay out of the sun and all that. Here, if it's 100, we take precautions. 90, 91 is, life is pretty normal here. Okay, even 92, 93, people will run around outside. Um, Less than if it's 80, but when it gets 100, 101, people stay or they use the car. So what happened? America hit Iran the third time. It was a pretty substantial hit. Last night, they struck the coastline. Only they didn't go deep into Iran. Iran was attacking naval ships, American naval ships attacking. It appears Qatar and Bahrain were the ones that were getting attacked. Not maybe I'll cover that. There was a few countries they were firing at last night in retaliation. And Trump's counter threatening them with the dead hand, or they have other words for it, dead this, dead that. Um, because they're threatening to assassinate him. We'll get into all that. And we'll spend, we'll review everything we know about the attacks, and then we'll get into what, it looks like Trump's going to do, and what it looks like Iran's going to do. What it looks like Israel's going to do. So we'll get into all of that. Trump is starting to do the right thing, but he's still got a ways to go. Not a big distance to go, but a little bit, and I'll cover that with you. But right now, I want to go into our live stream. We got plenty of sound and picture. Let me cut the sound back. Okay. Thank you, my moderators. And anybody getting questions up here for me? Beach Boys song. Bomb, 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 Moran. Bomb, bomb, bomb. I can't sing. Okay, let me get my post up, which is going to take seconds, not minutes. But I'm going to go silent while I do it, or I'm going to get typos. Almost done. Whoops, we had a screw up here. I gotta start over. Sorry. I hit an extra key or some stupid thing. Let me see how I get rid of this. try a different way to get it deleted. There it goes. Sorry guys, I'll do it again. Apologize. I gotta concentrate more. All right. Check this for typos. It's good. Let me pin it up. Okay, I think that's all good. It is. Now, being a Bible believing site, Old and New Testament, let me do some praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Yeah, last night I had a weird thing go on with my dogs. Beulah was outside. Mommy was in the house. And Mommy started crying, which is usually her way of telling me something's wrong with Beulah. Beulah's doing something that's a problem. So she doesn't do false alarms. So I got up and I thought, I don't know, maybe she's trying to get over the fence. It got stuck. I don't know what she can't get over the fence. So I go outside and I don't quite see her clearly in the dark, but I hear her and the leaves are shuffling around. I don't know what it is. So I call her a few times. After about 5 or 6 times, she comes in. I don't know. I think she was trying to get an attack going on something. I don't know what. We have these little, what do you call them? A hedgehog, the little round things. They got the cute little pink hands and they got armor on them. And the dogs can kill them if they want to brave the armor, but I don't encourage it at all. The hedgehogs are stupid for coming into the yard, but they're not real bright. But I don't want the dogs killing them, you know. I'd rather see them just go away. Chief and Yaffa used to just hold them at bay. They'd corner them or something and they'd sit there and bark for 15, 20 minutes. They wouldn't stop barking until I'd come over there and then I'd just pick them up and carry them away so the hedgehog could escape. But Beulah will. She didn't attack. I don't know. She might have been attacking last night. I don't know. I don't think so. But that was a weird thing. Um, I don't know. She's fine. I don't know about the hedgehog, but if she was really engaged with the hedgehog, she would have not let go and come in. There's other interior fences around the big fence, and the hedgehog was probably on the side of one of the other fences, and she was trying to dig through and get the poor thing. Uh, they're cute little guys. I don't see killing them. They're not harmful, you know, but they're not too bright either. Uh, the cats will come on our property, wild street cats, but they won't. They're pretty bold, but they look really hard to make sure the dogs aren't around outside. Um, and occasionally they made a mistake, and the dogs will barrel down at them full speed, and they will get away. They've always gotten away. They'll go over the fence, or they'll go up in a tree or something. They get away. Yeah, usually over the fence. So I don't want them killing the cats, but the cats come in and try to open up the garbage can and then pull the garbage out, and it goes all over the place and look for things to eat. That's not nice either. So if there's something in the garbage can like salmon, which they go crazy for, we put weights on the garbage can so they can't open it. We don't have raccoons. I never saw a raccoon. Never did see it. I don't know if they got them though. I never heard of them around here. We just don't have them. Skunks too. I never heard of any skunks around here. You know, basically you got birds. You got a few snakes, scorpions. They're rare, but they're around. And the snakes stay away from habitable areas. They don't want to be where there's noise and there's electricity and air conditioner noises, because it makes vibrations and sounds, and that upsets the snakes. They can't read the terrain right if there's all these vibrations going on, and they don't want any part of a dog. You know, they don't want to hear about having a big dog grab them and bite them. Maybe they could, they just don't want it. So they'll stay in places where people don't go, and they like to stay away from the roads too, because there's a lot of cars coming. It's a lot of noise, vibration. They don't enjoy that. We got all kinds of birds, and they land on the ground. Eat stuff. They don't bother anybody. Most of them are about that big. They don't pay attention. They're pretty harmless. They roost in the trees. Okay. So what happened last night? Oh, let me pray first. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I pray for a good live stream today. Have a good time with the people. Everybody enjoys. Everybody benefits. Bible study comes out well. People understand it. And we understand what the nations are up to and how you're fulfilling prophecy at this time. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. So, it's a kind of confusing as to why Trump struck them last night, Israel or Iran time. It was during the night. There's like two factors at play here. One is the 24-hour ultimatum was up, and the second thing is they attacked another ship again. So the Iranians, instead of making a public announcement like Trump demanded, that Trump demanded that they tell everybody the Persian Gulf is open, not attack any ships, not collecting tolls, and instead they attacked another ship, and they made an announcement that they're now going to be laying mines around Oman to ruin that other pass of traversing the Persian Gulf. I'll explain. It's a little complicated, but you'll get it. Trump has been attacking the radar on the coast of Iran. So look, there's the land here, like where Oman, UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar is, right? And then up here is Iran, and in the middle, that's the water, the Persian Gulf. So Iran wants people approaching up in the north near Iran and paying tolls and traveling there so they can control everything. When they take the path in the south, let's call it, by Oman, they're far away from Iran. And with Trump blowing up the Iranian radar with regularity on the coast of Iran, he blinds them, and they can't easily tell if any ships are passing through. they could have binoculars that are 24 inches long. No, I don't know if they're that long. You'd see some that are 12, 15 inches. In World War II, they had them, and they usually put them on a stand. I had a pair once like that about 25 years ago. That you don't see that far. You got to have them on a stand because the power. I don't know what the power was. I think it went up to around 12, something like that. And I didn't have a high quality one. If you bought a Nikon one for $600, it would have been a whole other story. But it blows stuff up, and your field of vision is not broad. It gets pinpointed. The higher the power, the more condensed your field of vision is. So you would need to steady it on a stand. You couldn't hold it. Like most of the binoculars that they would hold are 6 or 8 power. These would be like, twice, maybe 15 power. I can't remember. I think you could even get up to 20 power. But it's ridiculous because at 20 power, you're looking at a very small area. So it's very hard to find the target you're trying to look at. It doesn't work well. So most of the time, people use binoculars for about 6 to 8 power. Okay? Um, when you start getting to 10, it gets weird. Same with a magnifying glass. They sell magnifying glasses in Amazon, everybody. They tell you it's 10 power. Nonsense. They lie. And Amazon lets them get away with lying. Because the people in the world today are used to it and they don't hold standards. If there was an Amazon in 1955 and they were lying to the people, and people were buying binoculars that they were lying on, and flashlights that lied about the power, magnifying glass, they'd start writing their congressman, and the congressman would cause an investigation in Amazon for fraud, mail fraud, interstate fraud. Amazon would be really in a lot of trouble. But people accept being frauded today, don't they? Yeah. So most of the time when you're buying a 10 power magnifying glass, you're getting a maximum of 3 power, usually 2, 2.5, a maximum. People don't understand. If you're looking at a book with a 10 power magnifying glass, and I have real magnifying glass that's 9 power. It was an expensive thing. It's the real McCoy. And you're going to see maybe 2 or 3 letters at the same time, not even a whole word, if you move it up and down to get it focused. Okay? So it's good for maybe you want to look for a splinter in your finger. Oh, yeah, that's good for that. Or you're looking for fine details or something. Or you're looking at something very, very small. Okay? Like where the print is, size 2, 3, 4 maybe, then it can work. But if you're looking at a regular, 8, 9 print, 8, you're going to see 1 or 2 letters or 3 letters at most, something like that, okay? So usually you don't want to get more than about 4 or 5 power. Unless you're doing some specialized work, like with electrical circuit boards or something, and you're looking at little hairline size things and how they're connected, and you want to see it, it just depends. If you're a jeweler, you'd probably want to have a 9 or 10 power lens, the magnifying lens to see inside the stone. A jeweler's loupe is normally 10 power, but they're small. See, what you're not going to see is a 9 power magnifying glass this big. They don't. Usually they're like that. They don't make them like you. You don't get them. Okay. So for regular, use, like I can't read this label or what does this say, You're normally going to use about a 3 power lens, magnifying lens, right? Or glass. That's about 2.5, 3 power. That's what generally people use. If you want to look at stuff that's really small, that's not regular print in a book or something like that, then you're going to want to go to a 4 or 5 power. 6 power is, in my opinion, extreme. So that's the real power, not this junk they sell. Uh, you know, where they tell you it's 10 power and it costs $5 or $6. If it was 10 power and this big, if they ever made anything like that, it would probably cost you $150, $200. It's big frauds. And people keep buying them, and it's a fraud. And they tell you they put LED lights in them, right? Well, the LED lights are kind of worthless. You can get a really good magnifying glass from Europe and usually Germany, and they put an LED in it, and it shines like a headlight. But these other guys will put 12 or 15 LEDs in, and they don't do anything. you know. And Amazon sells it. So anyway, back to Iran. They're not going to sit there with binoculars and see. They could, if they're looking out from the coast into the ocean with binoculars, what's the most they're going to see? I'd say 5 miles. And that would be on a clear day, not a clear night, a clear day. And they had a decent pair of binoculars, not naked eye. They could probably go out 5 miles. And would they be able to make the details out on a ship? If they had really good binoculars, like Nikon or something like that, yeah, yeah, they would. They'd be able to read the letters on the side, and you know, that's probably with an 8 power set of binoculars or something like that. Now, if they had what I guess they call ship binoculars, where you're on a rest, on the boat where the guys would stand, to run the boat outside, they'd put, like on a submarine, if they were going to look around, they might have the stand for the powerful binoculars, and they screw them in real quick. And the guy, the captain or the chief of the boat or something, looks around with them. But it's not that practical because they can't find their target. So they'd usually use something like, you know, 6 power, 8 power, probably not even 10 power. It just helps them quite a bit uh, to see further and get detail. Uh, and they could get up to 12 or 15 power if they wanted to, and some of them might do it, but it's not all that practical. They use the periscope, and the periscope can get them. They can increase the power of the telescope, but I doubt the telescope went up more than four power, maybe 5 power. I don't think it went very high. But that was all they needed, because they were looking for a ship, which is a big object, right? So I don't think the periscope went to 8 or 10 or anything like that. It probably went to 3, maybe 4. I think 5 would be outside. I don't think it did that. So they have no way without radar. They don't know what ships are traversing. So Trump's plan is, let's blind the ram, pull the radar up, and then we'll move all the ships we want through on the southern side or the Oman side of the Persian Gulf, and Iran won't even know they're there. And we'll keep our destroyers there in case Iran wants to send drones or go fast boats. We'll be a big deterrent to the go fast boats, and we can blow them out of the water and take drones down. And they can. So what did Iran do now? They said, we're mining the path from the Sea of Oman. So Trump blinded their radar. What are they going to do? They're going to go drop 25 or 30 mines around the path by Oman. How are they going to do it? Well, you got me. They might have a boat that looks like a fishing boat or a commercial boat, and they're going to lay the mines off it. They have miniature submarines that I believe they still have that can lay mines, and they have go fast boats that can lay mines. So they might use all three. They're not going to put that many mines in. They don't. I don't know why they don't, but it's going to be effective anyway. No captain driving an oil tanker wants to travel through waters that have mines. A mine that, could be a 1 or 2,000 pound explosive. A 2,000 pound mine detonating a ship is horrific. You know, I don't believe when they dropped the depth charges in to get submarines, they weren't two. I don't believe they were 2,000 pounds. They were probably more like 3, 4, 500. They were plenty deadly, but not that deadly. So these mines can go different ways. Old junky mines float on the water with spikes, and the real old junky ones just float freely, but they're very dangerous. So in World War II, when Americans were going through areas that were mined, they would have lookouts on the front of the boat, maybe 3 people. They'd have one dead ahead, and they'd have two like at an angle, and they'd have reasonably low-powered binoculars they could use. Probably 4 power, 6 power binoculars. They weren't trying to look very far ahead. They were trying to look, 60, 100 meters ahead. So if they saw the mine, normally the mine's anchored, so they can make a map to give to the other ships that are on their side and say, here's where the mines are. So they know how to traverse the minefield, right? Okay. So they anchor the mine, okay? So if you see the mine 60, 100 meters away, you scream out, or you got a communicator and you tell them, veer over to the side, and then the ship, boom, goes over to the side and then passes with no mine and goes back on its track. The other thing they could do if it's really desperate is they used to give them a rifle, not a 223 M16. They gave them usually a 308 caliber rifle, which was 180 grains at over 3,000 feet per second, and these guys would shoot at the mine. There'd be usually 2 or 3 of them go boom, 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 and then the mine would blow up before they were close to it. It wouldn't really hurt the boat. But they preferred avoiding the mine, Now maybe they would, if they were at a good distance and they spotted the mine, they might shoot it just to get rid of the problem. They could do that too. But that's like sending a signal to the enemy, hey, want you to know we're here. A 2,000 pound mine on the surface is going to attract attention for many miles, okay? So, France brought minesweepers down there to remove the mines. I don't hear nothing about it, okay? I think France got warned by Iran, if you do this, we're going to blow your ship up. And Macron's a baby, and he ran away. Or he has his minesweepers there doing nothing, playing the I hope something changes, that kind of nonsense. Okay. I don't hear anything about Trump getting anywhere with the minesweepers either. I think they're afraid of Iranian attack. Minesweeper boats are normally not an armored boat. They don't have a heavy hull. They're not designed to stop attacks. They're vulnerable. They don't have countermeasures and stuff like that. They're usually going to be like a 60 to 100 foot boat. So they're going to be a reasonably good sized boat. and they're going to have, I don't know how many people they got on it, 12 maybe. Uh, that's it, so they could be protected by a destroyer, but if you get into a swarm attack, the destroyers are probably not going to be able to pull through, or maybe they can. It just depends. Okay, so I don't hear anything about those mines having been dismantled, but Iran is putting new ones all the way out by Oman, so they don't enter in the Persian Gulf in the southern area and not get detected by Iran. So Iran intends to keep attacking the ships. They got a hit on the ship last night. Now, did Trump attack Iran because the 24-hour ultimatum was up, or because Iran attacked that ship? Probably both. Really, probably both. The Americans did quite pretty powerful attacks. They had refueling tankers in the air, and they were attacking. Now, some curious things that happened. Missiles were going into Iran from Bahrain. So was America shooting missiles from their base in Bahrain, a Navy base, into Iran? Not likely. A Navy base, I would think, would be rather an unlikely candidate to have surface-to-surface missiles. However, there might have been some missile cruisers and destroyers docked up or moored by Bahrain, or perhaps when the attack they knew the attack was coming and they didn't want to get attacked or get hit. So before the attack came, they shoved off from being tied up in Bahrain, and they might have went out 10 miles or something like that, or 5 miles, and keep moving. And they could have been launching, and it would appear that it came from Bahrain when it actually came from the Navy ships. But again, it likely could have been Bahrain. So the Iranians were gunning for American naval vessels using anti-ship missiles. They were not playing house with America. They were trying to sink the ships, okay? They were not kidding, okay? Then they also started attacking the Gulf states. We think it was Qatar, Bahrain, and UAE. I think they might have left Kuwait alone. However, they sent about 10 missiles into Jordan. Yeah, they keep attacking that big base in Jordan. The targets of the Iranians these last days with the attacks from America have been consistently American bases in the region and American Navy ships. Now, we saw something else which should make you more cognizant of the psychoticness of, if that's a word, of the Iranians. They turn their air defenses on, and they can't track the American jets. They can't get a lock on them. So what they were doing is they have, you call it, I guess, an altitude fuse. America runs these in a 40 millimeter configuration. It's flak anti-aircraft. See, the Iron Dome is flak. The Iron Dome missiles get near the incoming threat, be it an aircraft, a drone, a missile, and blow up. It blows up, and then shrapnel goes flying all over the place, right? So all it has to do is get near the target and it damages it with shrapnel. Now, when you're damaging in World War II, they had flak. It was in a gun. It was a 40 millimeter gun. And they put a, like I guess you call it a clip of about 5 of these rounds. They were pretty thick and about maybe that long or that long. No, they were about like this. They were at least 2 feet, I think. And they had probably different models. They put them in the gun at the top, and they point the gun up in the sky where the planes were. They had iron sights, and the guy shooting it would go boom, 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 boom. He'd fire a whole clip at where he thought they were. He had some sort of a way you would set the detonator so it would blow up at a certain point. And scatter shrapnel. Now, when the planes back in World War II got hit with the shrapnel, a lot of times it was meaningless. It made a hole in a wing, like this, didn't do anything. It made a hole in a fuselage, didn't do anything. Or sometimes it did things. It hit an engine, and an engine broke or went on fire, and they had to shut it down. So they were down from 4 engines to 3 engines. That's a problem because they have to keep up with the whole pack of planes to get out of there safely. So if 1 or 2 planes can't keep up, the whole formation doesn't stop and wait for them. They fall behind. And then they're sitting ducks for any enemy fighters. When you have these formations, and it would be pretty normal to have 1 or 200 or 50 planes at the same time, bombers. They flew in a formation that if an enemy jet got in between them, the bombers had guns all over the place. They had a gun on the top of the airplane. They had a gun on the bottom. They had a gun on the rear, they had a gun in the front, and they had a gun on either side. And they had operators that would shoot them. So they had a special formation they'd go in where they had a high probability of not shooting each other, yet there was no safe area for an enemy fighter to fly through. So they did get a lot of these enemy planes, and they trained these gunners very, very hard. I mean, there was many weeks of learning how to shoot at moving targets, and they trained them rather well. And if you couldn't keep up with the training, they flunked you out. They wanted good shooters on these planes. Now, the problem with that, it was a dangerous job. What they used to do is the crew would fly 25 missions. And after their 25 missions, that would be bombing runs. They would go home to the States, and they would train other crews and go raise money, war bonds and stuff like that. Now, at times, things would have variance. Maybe there was a point in the war where they had to do more than 25. I don't know. And what happens if a crew member is on for 12 of these bombing runs, gets wounded, goes into the hospital, and recovers? Did it send him home with the crew, or does he have to join another crew? Probably vary, Who knows what they did. And I knew a guy that was on bombers in Europe, and he told me they gave him a tankard of rum. Everybody got a tankard of rum before they took off. He was American. And a tankard of rum is this. This is a tankard of coffee. It's taster's choice. It has my creatine in it, and it has 42% fat cream in it. Okay? But they fill it with rum. Rum's 80 proof, 40% alcohol. And it was so dangerous that they would drink the rum before they took off. That's how they got these guys fortified. So everybody on the planes then was, you had a pilot, you had a co-pilot, you had a navigator, a radio man. So you usually had about 4 guys in the cockpit. And then you had a bombardier who would take control of the plane superficially. When they were over the target, he would do some things that he wasn't really a full pilot, but he knew how to do stuff. He'd get it, and then they had a bomb sight, and when they looked in the bomb sight, they'd get it, he'd push the button, the bomb bay doors would open, and the bombs would fall out. And they were using a lot of 250-pound bombs, which is really, dangerous. And they were hitting a lot of things. They'd hit a dam, they'd hit factories, a lot of factories, railroad yards, enemy encampments, piers, ports, all kinds of things, warehouses, anything and everything, and they would, after they hit the target and they emptied their bombs, now they were able to fly faster, right? Because they have 250-pound bombs, maybe they dropped 20 of those, so they lost a lot of weight. So they were able to go faster and burn less fuel. So then they would turn around. As soon as they finished dropping their bombs, they were, get out of here, because the flak was still coming. The enemy didn't know they ran out of bombs, and they wanted to damage them on the trip home because they didn't want them coming back again the next day. So the Iranians can't handle the American jets nor the Israeli jets. So what they were doing last night is they just turned on their air defense systems. These were guns, they weren't missiles, because a missile, you have to put the missile on a target, it needs to get a lock, and then you launch it. So they couldn't get a lock on anything, so they just turned the guns on, these 40-millimeter guns shooting flak, guessed at the altitude of the American planes. It would just go boom, 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 boom. Now, a lot of reasons for that is, number one reason would be that's the only thing they could muster up. And they're saying they're a world power yet, right? Yeah, fly over Israel with a plane and see how long you last. You wouldn't even make it into Israel airspace in my book. You'd go down before you even got here. A plane's not a ballistic missile going at Mach 5, which is, a few thousand, it's 750 is Mach 1, 1500 is 2, then you got 2250 is 3, then Mach 4 is about 3,000 miles an hour. If you're flying at that speed, it's another problem, but not that big of a problem, but a problem. But planes don't go that. I mean, the fighter jets, maybe they can muster 1,500 miles an hour, 16 maybe, something like that, for short bursts. Because they put the afterburner on and their fuel just, but that can be handled, So, they wouldn't be around too long. We wouldn't be shooting them with guns. We would be getting them with ground-to-air missiles. We would get them with air-to-air missiles from planes and helicopters, and there would be all sorts of stuff going after them. So they would be, boom, 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 all over the place. So the Iranians that was the only thing they could do, is try to guess where and when, the Americans are in this area. What height are their planes? I don't know. Let's guess. We'll try different heights and we'll shoot flak up at them and try to hit them. That's just to put something in play, so the Americans have to be careful. Of course, if you're not careful and that those guns get up near you and the flak hits your jet, your F-15, your F-16, your F-35, you got a good probability of having to bail out. Where are you going to bail out? Well, what you're gonna try to do is make it across the Persian Gulf to one of the Gulf states and do an emergency landing if you can, or eject, and you'll be safe, relatively safe. You know, you give your coordinates to the American control station where you're bailing out, and they'll send planes to come get you. And you could run into Shiite Muslims there that'll take a pitchfork and run you through or something like that, but you will be relatively safe. If you can't make it that far, the idea is to get in the Persian Gulf reasonably far away from Iran, so the rescue guys could come get you. What's reasonably far? I don't know, 25 miles. 3 miles away from Iran is, kind of like being in the beach of Iran, and that's going to be a rough rescue. And the Iranians will come looking for you. So pilots don't want to get shut down. All right, so the Iranians basically told the Americans to go fly a kite in a lightning storm. They're not interested in listening to America's demands for being good about this. And they were acting extremely obnoxiously. Okay? And Trump is operating rather correctly here, but not complete. Let me get the dog in because she's on the warpath here for something. Probably a bird or a cat. Let me get her in, and I'll be right back. Mommy! Mommy! Come on in. Go get a drink of water or calm down. Stop being a nut. Get a drink of water, go. I'm going right where you're going, girl. So the Iranians are making a dumb show of themselves. In reality, I'm going to move this for a second. They're making a dumb show of themselves by shooting blind anti-aircraft guns because that's the best they could come up with. Now, it's also a possibility they're doing it to con the Iranian people into thinking they have realistic defenses, which they don't. Okay? They don't. Now, the part about this that's bad, that doesn't click correctly is, well, I mean, not that they're lying, they're not lying, is Trump is just attacking the coastal areas in Iran because he wants to stop them from being able to attack the shipping. And he's under some delusion that if he stops them from attacking the shipping and he keeps the sanctions on them, they're going to make a deal with him. And make a deal with him at this point, or in reality, is nothing more than a relative conditional surrender. This glass has got some dust or something on. He's talking conditional surrender, okay? And they're talking, they want America out of the Persian Gulf. Their base is closed. They want them gone. And they're going to control the Persian Gulf. They're going to charge tolls and taxes. And you better believe no ships are going to get in and out of the Persian Gulf with oil or LNG unless they are able to satisfy the Iranians that they're not selling the LNG or the oil on the US dollar. They're selling it for other currencies. And I also think it'll be the euro also. They won't want any of the oil or LNG sold on the euro or sold on the US dollar to hurt the economy of these countries. And it will hurt. It will weaken the euro, and it'll weaken the dollar, and it'll strengthen them. And they'll be collecting tolls, and there's no telling how high the tolls can go. They start at $1 million to $2 million, and a month later they could be $3 million to $5 million. The idea is to break America economically. Okay? They've said that. Okay? And they've said they want America to close their bases and leave the area. And what do they attack all the time now? The bases. And they're destroying the bases. And that's why Trump is putting his soldiers on Israeli bases and moving his planes to Israel bases. Okay? And Jordan has a big base. And they've left Jordan alone previously to a good extent because Jordan doesn't sell oil. They make oil and they don't have a lot of it, and they use it for their own use. And Iran's not terribly concerned about that at all. But they're very concerned about Jordan having a big base there that America uses, and they attacked it with 10 missiles yesterday. And they attacked it the other day also. So they're trying to destroy the bases enough where America just gives up and leaves. Now, Trump doesn't get on the air and talk about this. Oh, they want to, make these countries sell their oil off the US dollar. He's not going to tell you that, but that's what's going on. Okay? Most of the people in the United States wouldn't understand it. They wouldn't understand that that would cause a drop in the demand for the US dollar, which means the dollar would cheapen. And what happens when the dollar cheapens against other currencies? Well, the people in America have a rough time because the sellers of goods in America are not going to not raise prices. They're going to raise prices or sell the stuff abroad. So prices go up, wages don't go up, Social Security and welfare of all sorts won't go up, or they won't go up proportionately, I mean, you think they're ever going to give the people on SSI and pensions from the military and Social Security, they're going to give them an 18% increase or something like that? Yeah, they might give them an 18% increase if the inflation was 500%. You know, they can give them a 2%. In other words, their Social Security and veterans benefits and SSI and all that keeps going down. The only people that come out when the dollar weakens is the ones that own the businesses and are self-employed. Okay. All right. Now, do the companies raise the price of their goods? Yes, but they won't because they know what's going on. But they're not going to pay the workers more money because those are your S spots. Okay. There's non-S spots that have a business. They might have 2, 3, 4 employees or something like that. Somebody that has a business with 1,800 employees is an S spot. Okay, rest assured. Okay. Uh, so they're just demolishing the bases every time they're hitting the bases. And they have landings. These missiles land. They heard explosions in Bahrain. The missiles are landing. They're going for the military bases, and that's what they're doing. Okay. They're not hitting the oil wells and the refineries because they want these people selling oil to the world, but not on the US dollar. And they want these people selling oil and paying tolls. So when a ship comes in to the Persian Gulf and it wants to bring oil to, I don't know, Belgium or something, right? It's going to have to pay a toll to the Iranians, and then they let it go in to wherever the heck it's going to go, Qatar or whatever, and fill up with oil and then come out. Now, they might charge them a second toll, but I don't think so, but they might. I doubt they will. Maybe they just charge them on the way out, not on the way in. That makes more sense. Okay. So they don't want these guys out of commission right now. They want them in commission, hurting the American economy, probably hurting the EU economy, and at the same time helping them by giving them tolls, which are high, and it also keeps the world running. You see, they don't want to shut the whole world down because that'll affect them too. Okay, so they just want to affect their enemies. Okay, that's all they're trying to do. So Trump just hitting the Gulf states is avoiding the Iranian problem still. He's still thinking he's going to get them to negotiate with him, and they're not. They're just not going to do it. They never were. All they were doing is buying time with him so they could recoup from the attacks and come back at him harder. Trump needs to understand that there's not going to be deals. There's not going to be deals with Iran. It's gonna. You have to crush them. This is not crushing them. Okay. Trump's idea is I'm going to stop them from being able to close the Persian Gulf. Then they'll have to make a deal. So what are they doing? Laying more mines. And if those mines get swept and taken away, they'll put more out there. They're far, far, far from being unable to attack ships in the Persian Gulf right now. They're light years away from that, okay? It's not, Trump's not getting anywhere with this, okay? He's just banging his head against the wall with them. He has to understand the only language that the Iranians understand is not threatening. It's you have to take their ability to attack away. You have to either get rid of all their weapons, get rid of all their military, get rid of their ability somehow to fire weapons. Then you have your deal. But he can't do that because he can't get into the fortified cities yet. So he's getting nowhere until that's how we stopped Hamas. They had no way to fight back at us, and look what they're doing now. They're holed up in Gaza like rats, right, in a little area, and they're not disarming and they're not doing anything. They're just sitting there holding out. They're waiting for a miracle. What do they think? Iran's going to wipe Israel out, and then they'll just come out of their holes and tunnels and say, "Oh, here we are. We're back again." You know, like Tarzan. You know, I don't think so. How many times did Trump say we're going to kill them if they don't disarm, and he did nothing? See, Trump really has to learn a lesson that you don't open up your mouth in the Middle East unless you mean it. And he still hasn't gotten there yet. There was also attacks on a fishing pier in Bandar Dayer in southern Iran. I don't know why they hit a fishing pier, but I imagine they had a reason. Unless maybe a pilot confused it with another target, which I doubt. Something must have been going on off that fishing pier. Maybe the fishing pier went out a long way into the water, like a mile or half a mile or something, and they were using it with binoculars to look for ships. I don't know. Unconfirmed reports that Bahrain and Kuwait were attacking Iran at the same time as America last night. We were aware of missiles flying out of Bahrain to Iran. They could have been the Americans launching that. We don't know. We don't know how many missiles came out of Bahrain, but it was quite a few. So I guess these Gulf countries are getting sick and tired of Iran. These were probably medium range missiles to cross the Gulf. I think you'd have to be in the realm of a medium range missile. And CENTCOM, of course, did acknowledge the attacks. They said the goal is to, enable ships to cross into the Persian Gulf without being harassed and attacked by Iran. That's what they're trying to do. And it's rather unattainable. From the ship that the Iranians did hit last night, there's a crew member is missing, and there was that means he might have got blown overboard, and there was damage in the engine room that was significant, so they might have been trying to hit that. But it looks like that ship may not make it. We'll know more today. Uh, this is what America was saying. Iran was provided yet another opportunity to demonstrate adherence to the Memorandum of Understanding, which is silly because America and Iran both said that's dead, it's over with. Uh, After being held accountable for earlier attacks on commercial vessels, but has again failed. Okay, so the fact that the Americans are still talking about the Memorandum of Understanding is very bad, because it shows me that they're still on this psychotic episode of the Iranians are like anybody else and we can make a deal with them. They don't understand it. So they're using words like the United States is continuing to degrade Iran's ability to attack civilian mariners, civilian boats, and commercial ships freely transiting the Strait, the Strait of Hormuz. These strikes are being carried out at the direction of the commander in chief. So they're saying that Trump is calling the shots, and that's scary. Trump should go to the generals, unless he thinks the generals are crack-headed idiots. He should go to them and say, I want to, get rid of the ability for the Iranians to attack the ships. Go do something to do that. How would you affect it? They would tell him and they would do it. But Trump in control is very bad. Trump always wants to attack Iran with a back door to run away. Laying the landmines is basically stymied any progress Trump thought he was making in this endeavor to open the Persian Gulf. So it really appeared during the night that Qatar was hit. We're not certain, but it does appear that, and they're the negotiators Trump is trying to use. It's just ridiculous. This is an interesting thing. It's not on the war. More than 70 million Christians are expected to join global prayer event for Israel from Jerusalem. So they're not sending 70 million people to Jerusalem. There's going to be a small amount of despots collecting and making a lot of money running this thing, and people will, I don't know what with them, join them in prayer. I doubt it, but I don't know. And I wouldn't expect much to happen at all from that. Okay, now we got to talk about Trump and the dead hand. Now, there's other words for it, dead man switch. Okay. how is it classically used? You attack Russia with nuclear weapons if you really have any, and then we're blowing up. But as your nuclear weapons are coming in, we're going to launch 30 or 40 missiles at you. So even if you kill us, you're going to get killed too. It runs in this general genre, dead man switch. Now, what Trump did was a dead hand, and then it went some. Trump was saying, "You attack me, I'm already got orders in that hundreds of missiles are going to be launched to Iran." So Trump is trying to get us to believe that America has missiles that are going to cover, what is it, 6,000 or 9,000 miles to Iran, something like that, and cross an ocean and get in there accurately. And I don't believe they have missiles like that. But could Iran launch missiles from warships in the region, from Germany and other places in the region? 100% yes. So he didn't state where the missiles are going to come from, I don't think. But could he launch hundreds of missiles at Iran from Europe, warships in the Middle East, and from Israel and bases in the Middle East that are still functioning? 100%, absolutely, he can do it. There's no doubt, okay? What would it do to Iran? Well, I imagine best case Iran would take down 5 to 10% of them. Best case, maybe 1 or 2% of them. And I don't know what Trump's target package is, so I don't know what to tell you. But would it, if you put hundreds of missiles into Iran, would create damage? Yeah. But I don't know, how Iran feels about the damage because we don't know what the target package is. Okay. Now, Trump said, when you read it carefully, you don't have to read it that carefully. It says if the Iranians attempt to attack him, this dead hand is going to go into effect. But it's not really a dead hand at that point. It's Trump issuing an order. No dead hand. Dead hand is some guy goes, boom, Trump's head blows up. Okay, then Trump is saying he put orders out that if that happens, the military has to go attack Iran voraciously. What's wrong with that picture? A lot. Trump can't issue orders when he's no longer commander-in-chief of the military. Well, what do you mean? Well, if Trump's head is blown up and he's dead, you don't have a dead commander of the military. He is no longer the commander-in-chief of the military. Vance would be. So if Vance wanted to convey Trump's wishes after Trump is dead, which is very unlikely because Trump is dead, whatever was done is done. I don't know, but if Vance did want to honor that, one good reason would be he knows they're going to gun for him next, right? So Vance would say, I'm going to honor, Donald Trump's request, and I'm going to put 490 missiles in you in the next 2 days. And he does it. And what happens to Iran? Well, are you going to destroy their missile cities? No. Are you able to bust up, airports and many other things? Yeah. Is it going to stop them from fighting? No. One more time, listen to me, please. I've lived here many years. The only way you're going to stop Iran is like we stopped Hamas. They have no weapons to launch at us. They have no drones. They have no missiles. They have no rockets. They got AK-47 rifles. They might have a few anti-tank missiles that are shoulder fired or not. They might not have those. They don't have any capability to fire into Israel. Okay? but they're still alive, so they're not going to surrender either until you. So, you know, you can't do what Trump is saying. If I get killed, there's going to be a big attack. I don't think Congress is going to let that happen, and I don't think Vance has got a clear window to do that. He could get bounced out of office because that would be, they could say he's declaring war. They got rid of Trump. Let's say the Iranians killed Trump. Yay, we got rid of Trump, all his enemies, right? Then Vance is there, and they're sitting there saying, "Oh no, this is just Trump Mark II. We got to get rid of Vance." So Vance goes and launches hundreds of missiles at Iran, and they get rid of Vance for uh, declaring war on Iran without the permission of Congress. And he's so inexperienced and doesn't have deep roots and stuff. He's bounced. If they attack Trump with with an assassination attempt and it fails, will Trump attack Iran voraciously? I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Will he go to Congress and ask for a declaration of war based on the assassination attempt? Maybe. Will they give it to him? I'd have to go a maybe on that. Excuse me, I gotta see what this is. Yes. Yes. Okay. Who is it? Which company are you with? Oh, okay, okay. You're the one that went to Taveria the other day, right? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Are you? Where are you now? Oh, I'll come right out. Give me 1 or 2 minutes. I'll be out there for you. Okay. Thank you. Bye. But guys, I gotta go. I got a delivery guy here. This is life in Israel. You work for the delivery company. They don't work for you. So I gotta run out to the street because the guy doesn't know. He's new and he's actually not a bad guy. Let me go out there and I'll hopefully just be a minute or two. Where did that thing go? Oh well. Tripping on stuff. Oh, it was a different driver who knew me, but they sent it to the same street in another city on Thursday, so they had to reroute it. Geniuses. So I don't know what if. Hey, look, do I think Trump is likely to be assassinated by Iran? No, no. Secret Service is very good, as evidenced by their success over the years. They're good, and I don't. I don't think that Iran's going to get to him, but I do think Iran's going to attempt it, and Trump is going to get infuriated, and they're going to. What the Secret Service knee-jerk reaction is going to be is to keep Trump protected out of the public. In other words, they might tell you Trump's meeting in the Oval Office and you'll see a picture of him there, but they may keep him out of the White House for months. Where would they keep him? Who the heck knows? I don't know. They probably have contingencies for this. So nobody will know where he is, but he'll be appearing on television. He'll be appearing, statements on social media, interviews even. How do they do an interview? Well, they do it remote control. The CNN, whatever, Hannity or whatever, asks him questions from their location in New York, let's say, and Trump is in an undisclosed location. And they're just told where to transmit to. They don't know, they transmit it to, a Pentagon site or something like that. And then the Pentagon, makes it impossible to follow it and relays it on to where Trump is. So they never find it where he is. And that might be how Trump runs for months. And his family is probably also under wraps. Now, let me find you that picture. I put it on my social media. It has a picture of Netanyahu and Trump with a lot of other figures from Israel and America on a wanted hit list. And not finding it, am I? I thought I put it up here. Maybe it didn't go. All right, I know where I got it from. Let me go look for it there. It's worth seeing if I could get it up there quickly. I'm not going to spend an hour looking for it. They basically published an assassination list of who they intended to kill by assassination. Now. They're calling this the third wave of attacks on Iran. It's reasonable. No, I don't know where the heck. Why didn't I'm rather certain I put it up on my site this morning. I guess it didn't take. I don't know why. just fly through it again. I got it. Did take. I hope you could see it. You should be able to. You see Netanyahu and Trump up at the top. Okay. This is what Trump is dealing with, and he's still not really cognizant all the way. He's come out of anesthesia. He sees it in part. He doesn't see in whole what he's dealing with yet. But when they publish a hit parade list like that, these are the ones we're going to kill. Netanyahu's used to it. Netanyahu, the yawn, he doesn't pay attention to it. Israeli security is extremely good. And Netanyahu just isn't going to take any chances and, stick his neck out. Now, in the past, they did attack his house in Caesarea. So, I don't think they ever significantly damaged it. I just don't think Trump Netanyahu's going to go into that house as long as Iran exists. And the Iranians might try to blow his house up just for general principles. And if they could hit it, which is, their missiles aren't that good, it would give them tremendous propaganda value. But Netanyahu will stay reasonably well hidden. It'd be okay. Trump's going to just have to curtail his public activities, I think. And that could be a motivation for Trump to destroy Iran. Now, could this be the bringing on of the prophecy in Jeremiah 49, starting in verse 34 to the end of the chapter? Yes. They could make some attempts at killing Trump with drones, explosives, poison gas, spear guns, bowling balls off the roof, anything. And Trump will pop his cork and start wiping Iran out. He's going to just come up to the conclusion that he's going to, if Iran's going to keep trying, you try it enough times, you'll succeed, and his family too. And he just decides it's time to wipe them out. And Netanyahu will be cheering him on and saying, Donald, I'll work with you. We'll wipe them out together. Come on, buddy. New satellite images are showing that Iran, they don't really have satellites, but they have surveillance planes and drones. They can't go 25,000 miles up into space where satellites are supposed to be. Because I have a good question for you. How do they get through the firmament in Genesis 1? And on the other side of the firmament is water. How do they do that? How do they travel in the water? How does a satellite go around traveling in the water? So you got to believe your Bible, not them. If you believe them, not your Bible, you're lost. Okay, remember you read the angel standing on the four corners of the earth? So you have a round ball spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. That's what they taught you in school. Where are the four corners? Oh, the Bible must be wrong. No, they're wrong. They're lying to you. What happened when you went to school after kindergarten? You went to the first grade. You're a little kid. You're about that high. You're scared. You're nervous. You go in there. You sit at a desk. The teacher has your name at the desk or assigns a desk to you or whatever, right? You sit there and the teacher's in the front of the room and she's sitting at a desk, and what's on her desk or next to her desk? A globe around Earth. See how they work? They know it's not round. According to CNN, in cooperation with the Institute for Science and International Security, restoration activity was recently identified at the following sites. These would be nuclear sites in Iran. Parshin nuclear site, one called Pickaxe Mountain. Okay. It's an underground nuclear site. Missile base in Tabriz. Missile base in Kermanshah. Air Force base in Tabriz. So they've been rebuilding these things. In contrast, no restoration activity has been identified so far, anyway, in Isfahan, Fordow, or Natanz. Those are the ones that were supposedly hit hardest. I don't know. Maybe they just didn't get around to those yet. They're more complicated to rebuild. The Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson talks. Iran will not allow inspection at nuclear facilities that were damaged in attacks by the United States and Israel. And UN Security Council Resolution 2231 has effectively lost its legal validity. Oh, so they say, anyway. If they said it, it has to be true. We did not ask to renew talks with the U.S. as the Americans claim. We agreed to receive a visit from the mediator in Tehran. Please understand that the United States is not this is me talking. The United States is not the only country to be afraid of Iran. The entire European Union is also afraid of Iran. Okay? They're not doing nothing. So, actually, Trump is actually doing things, so he's not completely afraid of Iran, but he's not doing the right thing yet either. There were yesterday explosions in the morning near the nuclear facility in Parshin. According to the Iranian authorities, this was the destruction of leftover munitions from the war. I have tremendous difficulty believing that. Somebody did something to it. I don't know what. They don't have the luxury of destroying leftover munitions because a lot of their munition factories have been blown up and damaged, and their production's not what it should be, well, what they're used to in peacetime. So I don't think they would be destroying stuff. The Iranian opposition sources, that's the people that hate the mullahs, claim it was an explosion of tunnel entrance at the site in Parchin. So what they're saying is they couldn't get into the tunnel entrance. That nuclear, I think it's a nuclear site, Parchin, or a military site, whatever. They couldn't get into it because it was probably blown up from bombs. So what they did do is they blew it up to make a hole in it so they could get in and repair it. That was the explosion. Moshe, I don't know how you pronounce it. That's the dead Khomeini's son, who could be dead or in a coma. Who's now the supreme leader of Iran, because his supreme leader father is quite dead, publishes a letter on the occasion of the conclusion of his father's funeral events with a special promise of revenge. Now, the 7-day period of mourning for the dead Khomeini is over. So, I told you you're going to see action and you're going to see it. And my idea of action is not what you saw last night. Okay, you're going to see a different level of action from Iran. Different type, anyway. Assassinations, very likely. Other things. Now the Khomeini's son is likely not writing this. The IRGC generals or some others are writing it and saying that this Khomeini's kid, who's now the Khomeini, the supreme leader, wrote it. I don't believe the kid wrote it at all. We swear to avenge your pure blood, the blood of Khomeini, dead Khomeini. They're calling that pure blood, right? And the blood of all the martyrs of both wars, at the hands of the vile criminal murderers. This is the demand of our people, and it will certainly be fulfilled. Those criminals for whom there is a complete list of names from the first to the last, will carry with them to their graves the wish to die peacefully in their beds. But they must know that this will not happen. This does not depend on me or on others. Whether we are here or not, it will come to pass. Soon, free people around the world, each in his own way, will fulfill their part in this divine mission. Now, that could be a general call to jihad in a way, but I don't think it'll be heavily heated. I think the Iranians are definitely, this is a put on job. The military wrote this, not the kid. And if they didn't plan on fulfilling it, they never would have wrote it. So they have every intention of going after not just Trump and Netanyahu, but all the people that were on that poster, and then they have more longer lists of who they want to get also. They not only did they put Trump in there and Netanyahu in there, they put the Prime Minister of Italy in there, that woman. Now, I don't know how good their Secret Service is, but I guess we'll find out. See, if they drive these world leaders to the underground, where they don't appear publicly and stuff like that, they get a tremendous amount of propaganda value out of that. They do. So there was a shooting in Toronto some hours ago, 2 dead, 6 injured. It's a mass shooting. I don't have Any details will probably come out shortly. I don't know exactly what happened, but it doesn't sound good. And let me take a look at the live stream and the chat rather and see what's cooking here. If I've got any questions I need to be answering or anything like that. Oh, BB ain't nuking anybody, believe me. If they had nukes, they'd use them. Yeah, the pure blood of the Khomeini. Yeah, he's a tool of Satan. That's all that is. Well, he's dead. I mean, he's a tool of nothing now. But the kid, but we don't know if the kid's dead or he's in a coma or something. We don't. They're not going to tell you, and I don't know. They could, they could keep the. Uh, they could keep it a secret. I got a prayer request here. Uh, Hang on a second. Okay, we got a prayer request for NP, Normandy Papa. NP, Normandy Papa. I can pray. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I pray for NP, Normandy Papa, to have relief and get healed from the vomiting and from cancer. Be healed from cancer too. And I submit this to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And you guys can agree with this if you're a believer as well, even though it might be a video when you see it. It's okay. You can. God's big enough. You can agree with that. Uh, so Iran is not making any kind of nuclear deal with Iran. They're trying to rebuild their nuclear facilities. They were just playing with him, scaring him, and trying to see how much money and other things they could get out of him. And that's all they were doing. They weren't serious with him. They're not serious about it. Not at all. And you know, Netanyahu told them before all this started. Netanyahu said to Trump, he said, a ceasefire or making a deal with Iran is a waste of time. Why do you want to bother? And it is. You can't do that with these people. They only stop when you disable them to the point where they can't attack anymore. Now, there's sometimes will stop so they could rebuild. But they they don't understand the attitude and the mindset of the Muslim jihadist warriors. They don't get it. Let's switch to a Bible, and I want to talk to you about before we start. Bible related. You know, the Constantine guy started a artificial church uh, around the year 350 A.D. It wasn't the Catholic Church yet. It was just some kind of church he put together. Over the years, it evolved into a Catholic church. And the Catholic Church was the church that was trying to suppress the protesters called the Protestants, you know, which weren't really out there that much, but over time they did. So for about 1,000 years, the Catholics prevented people from having Bibles. So if they wanted to know what was going on, they had to go to the Catholic Church, and the priests would deliver sermons and explain stuff to them, but in mixed in with the Bible, and the Bible was often in Latin and read in Latin, and they would tell them what they wanted to tell them about the Bible, and things like that. Um, um, and the people were kept in the dark for about 1,000 years, and then they started getting Bibles. Wycliffe, around the late 1300s, was uh, one of the first. They had others, and they used to charge people rent to read them. They had books of the Old Testament, the New Testament, books from the New Testament, and they had different names for these. And they were handwritten, and they would charge people money to, hey, you could have it for a week, and you paid a fee. They were very small, and then you read it for a week, and then you brought it back, and then somebody else got it, and stuff like that. So that's how hungry people were for the word. So they got away with it for about 1,000 years. Then they couldn't keep the cork in the genie's bottle anymore, so they came out with their own translations, which were crap. And the and I've read the original Wycliffe and the original Tyndale, and I'm telling you, it's very, very identical to the King James. Very close. Very, very close. And the 1611 King James is the same as the regular King James. And the only thing that happened with the more modern English translations is they used fake make-believe manuscripts that they said was older than the other manuscripts that King James used, and it was worse of a translation. So all they managed to do was get worse. They didn't get any better. So the history of the churches has not been good, okay? And I want you to know that I point out the errors in the Bible translations very graphically. And I also will illustrate to you why the translators, King James and all of them, don't know Hebrew, and how the Bible's been twisted so you don't get the true meaning of it, okay? And a lot of you are going to hate me because I'm going to show what the scriptures say and use the scriptures to discredit religious bodies of various sorts. And you're going to hate me for doing that because you're not adhering to the Bible, and you're not following the Bible, and you're not calling the Bible truth and sticking with it. It's more important for some of you to follow and stick with what Pastor Bob or Pastor Mary told you. okay? And you're going to cling to that, and you're not going to adhere to the Bible. You don't want to. You just don't want to. You're not going to suffer any tribulation for the Lord. Tribulation in this case would be people in the church and in your family and friends telling you you're wrong. You won't even suffer that. You won't. You won't even go that far for Yeshua. And then you're going to reject me. But you're not rejecting me, you're rejecting the scriptures that I'm reading. And Yeshua says, if you reject knowledge, I will reject you. And Yeshua was not talking about rejecting the Farmer's Almanac or, popular mechanics. He's talking about the Bible. Okay, so we're going to do Ephesians 5 and 6 today, translating from the uh, Hebrew New Testaments. There's actually three. One is junk. It was done, I think, in maybe the late 80s or early 90s. It was done in Israel by what do they call themselves? Israel Bible Society, churchianity stuff. And it was done by them. And it was like somebody in the ninth grade could understand it. It was like the Living Bible. It's like a book that tells you things about the Bible that they want to tell you. It's not a very good work at all. I would consider it worthwhile at all. Salkinson reverse translated the New Testament by taking the Greek, looking for the Hebrew word that the Greeks are finding the same. Okay, taking the Greek words in the New Testament, finding the word in the Septuagint, which was done 250 years before Yeshua came to earth. Then seeing what Hebrew word the Greek word replaced, then taking that Hebrew word from the Old Testament, dropping it into the New Testament instead of the Greek word. So he reverse translated it. Delitzsch more or less used the Codex Sinaiticus from about the year 400 AD, and that was based mostly on the Greek. And he translated the Greek into Hebrew. So I had the Hebrew translated into English in a secular fashion, using AI to do the translations according to my criteria, so we don't have any church party lines or doctrines or twisting or anything else in there. Okay? So it's clean. It's a raw translation, you would call it. So Ephesians 5, verse 1. I'll either be using Delitzsch or Salkinson or both, and I'll pretty much tell you. Salkinson, verse 1. Be therefore imitators of Elohim, like children who are deeply loved. Delitzsch does it a different way that's interesting, to say the least, as children of his delights. They're both good. If I had to pick between one, or I don't know, they're both good. That's because the Lord really deeply loves you, and you have not really been that, you're you can't love him right now the way he loves you. I guess I could say you could try to love him and you could love him, but his love is greater than humans' loves, I would believe, at this point. And walk in love, even as the Mashiach. It says literally the Anointed One, which is the Messiah. Uh, the Anointed One, but as the Messiah or Mashiach, also loved us and gave us up himself on our behalf as an offering, and a an offering hyphen gift, and a slaughter hyphen sacrifice to Elohim for a scent of pleasant satisfaction. In other words, him as an offering was pleasant and satisfactory to the Lord, so that he obtained righteousness not just for himself but for us. And he had righteousness actually before. So, and delivered himself, this is Delos, and delivered himself up on behalf for an offering and a slaughter sacrifice of sweet smell, sweet savor to the Almighty. That's pretty good too. Delos is good here. It's telling us Jehovah accepted this offering Yeshua made. And that's where you got your righteousness. No need to do it by works. You got it from Yeshua. Verse 3. But no need to do it by works now, I should say. But whistle, and Delich goes, and physically whoring and all foulness or eye greediness, eye greediness, okay. Let it not be mentioned by mouth among you as is beautiful for set apart ones. Okay, let's try it in Salkinson. But whistle, I don't get the whistle, okay? Delich says physical. So I think in the flesh he's saying adultery and all animal impurity, foulness, like you're behaving like a beast, right? You're not following the law. It feels good, let's do it. Or cutting greed. Let it not even be heard among you is fitting for set apart ones. Set apart ones are the ecclesia, which they translate incorrectly as the church, for their own profit and gain. The church has no connotation. That word ecclesia has no connotation or meaning or implication that you should go out and buy yourself a building. Okay, none of that. Okay, so that, we're not supposed to do such things. Verse 4. Neither low shamefulness nor foolish babble, nor light mockery, which are not proper, but rather the lifting of horizontal thanks. Delich says the giving of thanks. Okay. Delich is maybe clearer here. He says, neither ugly flesh behavior, nor empty talk, nor hollow joking which are not proper things, but instead the physical things. God doesn't like that stuff. Some of you might remember years and years ago, the Obama days, I was, making fun of John Kerry, comparing him to Lurch from the Addams Family, and you know, I go, the Lord told me to stop that. Okay, so I don't do that stuff anymore. If I do it very little, but I don't go around mocking them, even though they're evil and wicked and lousy. I don't mock them. Maybe because they're the leaders of the country, I should show them respect, I guess, even though they're evil. But anyway. I do illuminate people to their errors and their evilness, but I don't. That's not mocking them. That's helping the people. For this you know with certainty that no whoremonger, nor unclean person, nor greedy cutter A greedy cutter is a person who sells graven images and makes a living that way. This person has, okay, so I'll pick it up again. Nor unclean persons, nor greedy cutter who is a servant of carved images has any inheritance portion in the kingdom of the anointed of the Messiah, of Yeshua HaMashiach, and of Elohim. Okay. So this is rather consistent with Galatians 5:19 to 21. Okay, verse 6. Let no man deceive you with empty, hollow words. For because of these things, the burning wrath of Elohim comes upon the sons of persuasion, rebellion. It says Almighty comes upon, the fury of the Almighty comes upon the children of turning away. Oh, Salkinson's pretty clear on this. He says, comes upon the sons of non-persuasion. In other words, non-persuasion of rebellion. The sons of rebellion is better, of course. They don't want to follow the commandments of the Lord. New Testament, Do not be, and the Old, I guess, too. Do not, but we're not under Moses' law. Do not become partners in league with them. David says, do not cast your lot with them. You don't work with them. In other words, I wouldn't go to these apostate churches and agree to do a Bible study. All they would do, I would be giving place to the devil by doing it because I'm lending credence to this particular church. And while I'm up there preaching the true gospel, they would all be cursing me because I would be giving place to the devil and they would try to kill me. For them, that's the truth. Some people aren't going to like it. If I was able to sing, and I can't sing, if I could, and we went to a church, and I was singing and I was a true believer, I would be in sin and they would kill me. They would try to kill me anyway. I wouldn't do it, okay? So I tell you, when you listen to these people that sing church and messianic congregation music, do they use the name of Jehovah and Yeshua explicitly and precisely? You should be careful. Because believe me, they're not going into church and singing praise to the real God and the real Son of God, Yeshua, in these churches. They're not. Okay? Pay attention to what they're really doing. Do not be look at old hymnals. Look at hymnals and see if you can find the name of Yeshua and the name of Jehovah in there. Try it. Do not become partners in league with them. You don't become a partaker with them, and you don't give them any money. You don't contribute to their ministries. Then you become a partner or a partaker with them. Verse 8. For you were formerly darkness before you got saved. Um, Now it says, for you were darkness in old times. Sulkinson's is more precise. For you were formerly darkness, but now you are a light dash flood in our master. Walk as children of the light flood. It's more of a literal translation, brings it out to be a light flood. The they use the word our master. Both of them do. So that's Ephesians 5 verse 8. Let's take a look at the King James for a minute. Ephesians 5 verse 8. Oops. Come on. EPH. Ephesians 5 verse 8. All right. What? Hang on, I'll be back in a second. I'll finish this. Get out of this maze here. Now Beulah's resting. She doesn't want to go out yet. She's been out already. Okay. For you were sometimes darkness, but now are light in the Lord. Let me just see what word they were using for this. Oh, it's Greek. Yeah. Kairos. The Lord, and then of course I'm using secular. They said it says master. Okay. I got it. All right. I could check Salkinson's New Testament on that to see what was cooking there. This is it. 5 verse 8. I don't know. Yeah, it was used in I don't know. All right. Didn't use the word Jehovah. Okay. I was just making sure. Now the stupid iPad moved. Of course, it makes life difficult. All right, let's see where I'm at here. I gotta find Ephesians 5. Okay, verse 9, Ephesians 5:9. For the physical fruit of the light flood is in all goodness and uprightness, upright righteousness, and firmness of truth. Let's try Delich. For the fruit of the light is in every good deed and justice and truth. A little bit clearer. He doesn't use the light flood because Salkinson works with the Hebrew that's more like the Masoretic text. It's more like a song. Not exactly that way, but anyway. I like light flood. It means there's a lot of light, you know. I think if you ask the demons what the light from the believers with the Holy Spirit feels like, it would be a flood of light. They don't like it. They get very uncomfortable around you, as you probably noticed. In people, when they're into people, the people get uncomfortable around you. Testing and proving what is pleasing, satisfactory to our master, examining what is sweet and good in the eyes of our master. Okay. So we want to do what's Adonai wants us to do. The master is Adonai, Lord. But you could, like in Hebrew today, somebody might call their employer or their landlord. So it's a soft word for Lord. That's why they're interpreting it as master. You understand? It's not the same as saying Jehovah or Yeshua HaMashiach or something. Okay. Master sounds pretty good too. Okay. And have no fellowship attachment with the unfruitful works of the darkness. So when you go to the churches and they're talking about being a denomination and having a doctrinal statement, when such behavior is forbidden in Galatians 5:19-21, and it says if you do those things you won't enter the kingdom of heaven, and then you ignore those things and do them anyway, where do you stand with Jehovah? Well, you don't care about the word. I mean, your best bet here would be your works are burned up, but you get saved. That's the absolute best you got to go to get into. In my humble, stupid opinion, I'm not God, but I could be wrong. And have no fellowship or attachment, fellowship dash attachment with, I'd say fellowship with the unfruitful works of the darkness, but rather lay them bare naked. That's what I do. I lay them bare naked. I expose them by rebuke. Reveal. Okay, Delich is more clear than rebuke. He says reveal or reprove them. Reveal hyphen approve them. So Delich is pretty good here. He says, and do not join into the doings of darkness. That's awkward in our English, but it's very clear. Do not join into the doings of darkness that yield no crop. No crop means fruit. They don't yield any good fruit. They just yield bad fruit. But instead, reprove them. Okay? So if you were working in the White House, would you be guilty of this? Yes. Okay. For it is and if you were doing other things, you'd be guilty of it too, believe me. For it is a shame even to speak of the things done by them in hidden secrecy. You don't want to talk about what they do or what maybe you did before you were saved and you were like one of them. You don't talk about it because it's so evil and so bad. We just don't want to talk about it, okay? I know people that did lots of bad things before they were saved, and the best is, if someone will call you out on it, you say, look, I was really a mess, or I did a lot of stuff I shouldn't have done before I knew the Lord, and just glance over it that way. It's graphic, you described it in general terms, but you're not going to get into the details. It's a shame to talk about what they do. They're so sick. But all things, when they are laid bare by the light flood, are made visible, for everything that makes visible is light flood. Remember, I'm doing a raw literal on this, so we get the real meaning of what's being said. Now, Delich, and the whole, when it is reproved by the light, is exposed plain, for the light is that which makes everything transparent or clear. I like that. See? I'm just running the two. It's sometimes Delich is better than Salkinson. So if I was creating a written work, I would combine the two together. See, I think this deserves to be transmitted around the world. That's why I want to get it on Spotify, and put it up on the on all the different podcasts, which exposes to over 1 billion people. Uh, but I'm not there yet. I don't have the ability and the manpower, so I'm praying, and you can pray too, to get there. If I try to work, I could I do what I do now and then work? Yeah, maybe, but I couldn't do a great job. I could work, but I'd never make enough money. Secular, I'd make a living, but I mean, I wouldn't be able to generate like $80,000 or $100,000 a month. I don't have that kind of energy anymore, and that's hard to do. You know, it's hard to do. I could maybe make a few thousand a month, but it would take away from the ministry, so it wouldn't get us there. So it has to come from him, I'm afraid. I can't do it, but I'd really like the world to hear this like this. But okay, 14. On account of this, it says, wake up, you sleeper, and stand up out from the physical dead ones, and the anointed one, the Messiah, will the anointed one will shine a light beam upon you. Wow, that's graphic. I don't remember reading that way in the Bibles. So let's read it in Delage. Therefore it is said, awaken you who are asleep, and rise up from the dead ones, and the anointed one will break dawn upon you. That's great. I mean, arise, shine, your light has come. That reminds me of Malachi 4, I think around verse 2. The sun, S-U-N, Shemesh in Hebrew, the sun of righteousness shall arise with healing in its extremities. You know, that's what it's really referencing, I believe. And when and then Salkin's in the light beam, the light, remember he's going to appear in the clouds like lightning from the east to the west. And when believers see him, they'll be changed, they'll be like him, they'll have everlasting life, they'll jump out of the stall like a baby calf. That's what this is telling you. That's what this is referencing. Zechariah 12, verse 10. Verse 15. Look out closely, therefore, how you walk horizontally, not as unwise ones, but as skill-wise ones. And Delage, watch out carefully how you behave, your steps not as men without hearts, but as men of understanding. Wise ones. It's good. They're both all right. I don't like the use of the word horizontal because it doesn't really have a good fit in our language today. Buying back the physical time, which is ransom the time, or ransom buying the time. The time, season, and its opportunity. So Salkinson says, buying back the physical time opportunity because the days are evil dash bad. Delage, because the days are full of harm. Yeah. It was true then, and it's true today. Verse 17. On account of this, do not be without minds, but understand what the desire dash will of the master is, or what Adonai is, okay? The Lord is. Therefore, do not be simpletons, but discern what is the pleasure dash will of our master or our Lord. The master and the Adonai word, it's a very good translation too, master. Okay, 18, and do not get drunk, hyphen loaded. Yeah, that's pretty good. Delitzes, do not drink yourselves drunk. I agree, yes. In which is wild recklessness, drunk with wine, Delit says wine, which leads to loose whoring. Yeah, I like Delich. But be filled or flooded with the wind, with the Spirit. But Deliches, but be filled with the Spirit. That's much better. The Delish is a lot clearer here. He says, and do not drink yourselves drunk with wine, which leads to loose whoring, but be filled with the Spirit. Yeah. Yeah. If you get filled with the Holy Spirit, you're praising the Lord and you're praying and you get filled with the Holy Spirit, it's not drunk, but it feels really relaxing. Better than drunk. Drunk is side effects, artificial, it's garbage, Okay, speaking to your own, I don't know, some people like the alcohol. I don't like it at all. Speaking to your own souls in string psalms. Okay, Delich. Talking to one another in string psalms. Okay, so you're talking using the psalms, I guess, and praises and songs of the Spirit. That's Delich. Okay. Singing and playing music in your inner heart to the Master. Sulkinson says, and making music with your heart to the Master, to Adonai. 20. Throwing thanks at all times, throwing thanks at all times for all things, in the name of our Master Yeshua, the Anointed One, to Elohim, the Father. And Delich, throwing thanks regularly on behalf of everything in the name of our Master Yeshua and the Anointed One, to the Almighty the Father. Okay, both good. 21. Bending low, submitting yourselves one to another in the fear, dread of the Anointed One. Now it's a little different. Being humble, submissive to one another, that's very clear, in the fear of the Almighty. Okay. He says Almighty, the other one says Anointed One. I'll go with Anointed One. 22. Wives, bend your Wives, bend low, submit to your own lords. Delich. Women, be submissive to your husbands. See, he's calling the husband the Baal. It's lords. It's actually lords more than husbands, I think. Husbands as to, well, he says lords dash husbands. That would be a decent way of conveying it, I think, fairly. As to the master. So that's why he's using the word Lord. So you submit as you would to Yeshua. For the husbandman, that's the is the head of the wife woman. Delich goes, for the man is head of the woman, just as anointed one is head of the congregation dash assembly. And Salkinson says, wife woman, even as the anointed one is head of the gathered assembly. That would be the Kehilah, we would call it today in Hebrew. The called out from among, would be that, but with a congregation. It'd be like the called out from among congregation. That would be how I would say it. Choppy and long, but that gets the point across. And no implication of having a big building in there, by the way. And he is or a building at all. And he is the rescuer, deliverer of the physical body. And Delich is, and he is the savior of his body. Well, I think it's our body. Now we're in verse 24. But as the gathered assembly bends low, Delich, and just as the congregation assembly is submissive to the anointed one, so also are the women to their husbands in all things. But as the gathered assembly bends low to the anointed one, so let the wives be to their husbands in everything. So if you had a husband and he said, come on, honey, we're going to rob Bank of America today. You drive the getaway car. I'm going to go in and, shoot them up in the bank and get the money. Would you do it? He said, no, I don't think that's a good idea. No, it's got to, you got to have a balance in these things. So what if he says, let's go have become serial killers? You don't do it, you can't break God's rules just because your husband says so. God is greater, you understand? Man can't give you an excuse to break the commands of God and go out and commit murder and adultery. Come on, we're going to go wife swapping today. You don't have the right. He doesn't have the right to tell you to go do adultery. Okay? Husbands, love your wives even as the anointed one loved the gathered assembly and delivered himself up on its behalf. Wow, you see, he rose from the dead on their behalf, right? On our behalf. Now, a lot of women go off on this one. You don't love me like Christ loves the believers. No man is going to love you the way Yeshua loves the people, okay? not in this state. Maybe when we have the law in our heart, we have a heart of flesh, maybe then, after he appears, maybe, I don't know. But you're not like him now. No guy is, I don't think. That's my opinion, not a scripture, that's my opinion. In order that he might set it apart, purifying it by the washing of the water plunged through the spoken word. Okay, let's see how Davids puts it. To make it set apart after he cleansed it in the washing bucket of water by the word. Okay. I guess it has something to do with baptism, I think. In order that he might set it apart, purifying it by the washing of the water plunged through the spoken word. So the word is, he's telling us it's the word that cleanses us, not the water of baptism here, I think. That's what he's using. Okay, different. Verse 27, to cause it to stand before his face as a weight, glorious, gathered assembly, having no stain or wrinkle, fold, or any such thing, but that it should be set apart and without defect. So if everything's great with you, but every now and then you got to go out and fornicate or have adultery, or every now and then you got to go snort coke, or every now and then you're going to do some stupid evil sin. That's not it. Okay? To make the congregation assembly stand before him, clothed in splendor, the white garments that you get from him, from God the Father, with no filth spot or skin wrinkle, without spot, wrinkle, or blemish, or any bad thing, but to be set apart and completely blameless. If you're completely blameless, you don't have the spot, wrinkles, and blemish. And he says he's coming back for an ecclesia or without spot, wrinkle, or blemish. And then the people say, well, why should our church be perfect? We're not perfect. They should read this scripture, I think. Going to a sinful church is certainly not going to make things better for you. So ought men to love their wives as their own physical bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. Delich. In this way, men are bound or obligated to love their women as their own flesh. He who loves his woman loves his own soul. The other one says loves himself. Okay. 29. For no man ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and warms it, even as the master does the gathered assembly, as the master loves the gathered assembly. For the congregation assembly. Okay, verse 30. Because we are bone members of his body. That what says, for we are pieces, limbs of his body. Okay. Back to Salkinson. Out of his flesh and out of his bones. Members of his body, but not in his flesh or his bones. And though it says from his flesh and from his bones, I think the outer is clearer. For this cause shall a man leave the father. It's saying you're not part of his physical body right now, okay? And this cause shall, or it's spiritual, it's not literal fleshy, you know. For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one single flesh. This hidden secret is great, but I speak concerning the anointed one and the gathered assembly. Nevertheless, let every one of you in particular so love his wife even as himself, and the wife see that she holds dread reverence for her husband. Okay. Now we're going to go to, if I can hold up, we're going to go to Ephesians 6, verse 1. Children, obey your parents in our master, for this is straight, upright. This is true, this is just, it says in Dallas. That's good. Honor your father and mother, which is the first command, charge with a promise. Commandment among the promise charges. Okay. That it may go well with you, and you may prolong your days on the dry land. That's rather obvious. Prolong your days. And fathers, do not provoke your children to fierce wrath. You could drive your kids crazy and make them hate you and go nuts, you know, by over punishing them, overbearing them, over this, over that. This is not right. But rear them up in the discipline, correction, and mind warning of the master. But rear them up in the discipline, correction, and mind warning of the master. Dellett says chastisement, instruction, and teaching of the master. I like that better. It's much clearer. You chastise them if you do something wrong with instruction, and you teach them of the ways of the master of Adonai. Now it talks about slaves. I don't think you have slaves. Anybody have a slave? Raise your right hand. No, I didn't think so. Okay. This is Ephesians 6, verse 5. But in the future you will. Slaves, bondmen. The bondman would be like an indentured servant, probably. Obey your masters according to the flesh with shaking, fear, and trembling. Delich goes fear and shaking in the integrity of your inner heart as to the anointed one. Fear and trembling in single-heartedness to the anointed one. That's salt and sin. Now, this is verse 6. Not with eye service, pleasing as men, pleasurers. So not with eye service. Pleasing as men pleasers, but as slaves of the anointed one, executing the desire will of Elohim from the pleasure will from the soul. So he's telling you to just be good with them. Telling the slaves to do your job and just be good with them. And then I guess in return the Lord will make sure you have favor with your slave owner. With goodwill, doing slave service as to the master and not to humans. So you're serving them as if you were serving Yeshua. Okay? Knowing that whatever good physical deed any man executes, the same shall he receive back from the hand of the master. So you're going to get it back, whatever you do. Okay, so Delit says, because you know that the reward for every good thing a man does, he will collect from the master, whether he is a servant or a free citizen. So if you do this and you serve your master like he is Yeshua, Yeshua's going to make sure that you're going to have things go good your way. Even if you're a bondman or a free man. Okay? So this is to give believers a good reputation so people want to hire believers. Okay? But in modern days, I tell you, the employers in many cases are so evil to believers. It's hard. And masters execute not always the case, but you should always try to do well. I worked for some guy that was a witch. He was trying to convert me into Satanism and all that. I was like an independent contractor. I worked from my house. And I was pretty much working for him most of all the time. And he, I did a good job for him. He was making good money off my efforts. And when I left, he was doing recycled paper, and I was running advertising marketing campaign for him to get it going better, you know. And it was in Florida, and people wanted to recycle paper, and it was going well, really well. And I just moved on. It wasn't, it was time for me to move on. So when he left, he said, you better give me all the materials. I want all the commercials. I want all this. I want all that. Don't. I said, no problem. I'll bring everything. I bought loads of stuff when I left. I didn't want to do stab him in the back. He paid me all the time. I brought loads of stuff to him, and I gave it to him. And he was very friendly with me. And then I ran into him a couple of years later at a gun range elsewhere in Florida, and he was looking at me like I should say hello, and I didn't know who the heck he was anymore. I mean, it didn't register with me. I never expected to see him. And then I didn't say anything to him, and then later on I realized it was him. I should have talked to him. Anyway, I went overboard being really nice to him, explaining to him everything to do so the next replacement would know. And he had a guy lined up, and I went to visit the guy that was going to replace me, and I'll never forget, he had 2 ferrets in the house. Ferrets are psychiatric case pets. They're nuts. I mean, they're cute. They fly around the house. I mean, they don't walk. They run all the time. I don't know where they get the energy. They have not a nice odor when you touch them. It's a wild animal odor. I didn't like it, but they're they're a little unnerving because they'll get behind you and get under your legs and run between your legs. They're playful. They're not evil. These were playful ferrets. But anyway, I did a good job with the guy. Then I worked for some other. No, I think which came first. I worked for some other company, and they were saying butts, and uh, they fired me. I was using the cell phone too much. I never should have. And but they were pretty nasty. They fired me, and then they didn't want me to get unemployment insurance. They wanted to fight my claim. So I had a fight with them, and then I needed money then, and then the unemployment insurance was paying me. Uh, and I really went out of my way to make sure I win it. And this jerk was threatening me and everything else. And then I called. He was discriminating against Jews. And I filed some kind of complaint with him with the government, and he had the government complaint. They had no record of it anymore. He got it taken away. It's a Satan, but it's a stupid thing. He was threatening me like I really was scared, right? Before there was the unemployment insurance hearing, he was hanging around waiting for me to go on my exercise more, which I had a routine of following, and I always had it going with me. But I was walking, and he rides by and he blows his horn, as if he's supposed to scare me, you know. The guy was a jerk. He used to molest. I don't want to talk about it. It was a real jerk. It was an alky. I think he was reformed to some extent. I don't know. Okay, verse 9. And masters execute the same thing towards them, leaving off threats, showing that your own master is in the skies, and there is no thing there is no lifting of faces partially before him. Oh, favoritism. The looking at the faces is favoritism. So he's telling you to be an equal and fair and a good employer, so you make a good, or a slave owner, So you set a good witness to these people because you're fair and you deal with them well because you're serving Yeshua, so they would come to the faith. That's what he's. That's the purpose of this. Okay, verse 10. Finally, my brothers, be strong, mighty in the Master, or in Adonai, and in the bone strength of his physical force. Let's read Delage. For the rest, my brothers, grow mighty in the Master and in the force of his great power. Yeah, physical force, great power is much better. Put on the whole combat gear of Elohim, so that you may have power to stand firm against the traps or the tricks of the accuser or deceiver. This is going to be good. I'll be back in a second. Quick break. We're going to read all this stuff clearly today. Be good. I'll be right back. All right. So, he says here, put on the whole combat gear, and the Delit says, gird yourself, gird on the complete weapon armor. I like armor better, weapon armor. Well, armor means against weapons, kind of by definition, plus, of the Almighty, the armor from God, that you get from God, of Elohim, it says, so that you may have power to stand, of the Almighty, so that you can stand against the deceit schemes of the adversary. Yeah, that says it really well. He's always trying to con something, right? For our wrestling clinch, okay, is not against animal blood and meat, flesh. So it's not against flesh and blood, right? We know that. Okay, we don't wrestle with flesh and blood, it's saying, but against rule dash principalities. Now, Delich is a lot more graphic than the churches wanted us to know. Let's read Delich for a minute. For we have no battle against flesh and blood. Okay? That's very clear. We don't fight against flesh and blood, but against chieftains and rulers and the governors of the world. you see, it doesn't say it in Salkinson's. He says principalities against horizontal authorities, against the world holders of darkness of this age. You know, like I tell you, the heads of all the countries in all the world, every single country, are despots. Okay, and the world darkness of this world age, as if of this age. See, he's telling us in this age, the governors of the world are all evil. You see, they don't want that coming out, so they didn't give you the clarity here. And against the wicked spirits in the heights. And Salkinson goes against the world holders of the darkness of this age. Okay, good, he gets this age. And then he says against spiritual forces of evil, harm in the high places. Okay. So that's really, he's telling us our enemy is the unclean spirits mostly, but the governors also. But we don't fight them in the flesh. We fight the spirits that are working with them. We block the spirits from using them, using the keys of the kingdom. Okay, we stop the unclean spirits from using them. Then they can't do much. It's like being a taxi driver without a taxi. Okay, or being an airborne ranger without a parachute and jumping out of the plane. You're just going to crash. They're just going to crash without their unclean spirits. They're not that smart. Okay. On account of this, take up the whole combat gear of Elohim, so that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, the day of evil, the evil day, and having executed all, to stand firm. To stand against in the day of evil, and to stand firm after you have beaten down the whole. Having executed all, to stand firm. Oh, I don't know, beating down the whole sounds better to me. That's what we do. What is the evil day? I think there's a lot of evil days. It's not the day of vengeance, you know. It's evil day. There's a lot of evil days. When it gets evil, you're gonna stand firm and keep the fight. They can't do anything to you. They can't kill your spirit. All they could do is kill your flesh. Everybody's flesh goes sooner or later anyway. They can't do anything to you. You know, remember it says they got the victory over the beast when the beast killed them because it wouldn't take the mark. So the second they died, boom, they were in good shape. Now they had that spiritual body. It was going up to heaven. Stand firm. That's something the beast could never do. He ain't never going to heaven. Okay, those days are over. If he ever was up there, he ain't never going again. I don't know if he ever was to start with. Stand firm, therefore. I guess so, but I don't know. So, stand firm, therefore, having girded your loins with firmness, truth, and having put on the leather breastplate of straight uprightness, delich. Stand then when your loins are tied, bound with the truth, and you are clothed with the iron breastplate, not a leather breastplate, an iron breastplate. Okay, of justice. Okay, you're bound with the truth. See, that's why I tell you, Trump doesn't know how to deal with Iran, so he keeps lying all the time. Oh, they want a deal. They called me. Oh, we're close to a deal. See, this is very, very bad. You have a leader of a very powerful country that has no way of dealing with these Iranians. He doesn't know how to deal with them other than to lie incessantly and constantly. This is very bad. But where we are bound, we bind our loins with the truth. He binds his loins with lies. Do you understand? Okay. Verse 15. And having shod your feet with the readiness or the preparation of the good news of completeness and peace. Okay, the good news, that has to be the real gospel, not the doctored up one where they cook the books. Okay, the translations, bad translations. And your feet are shod with the ready footing of the message of good tidings of peace. Above all, taking up the large body shield of firmness and faith. Above all, above all things, lift up the wall shield of trust or faith, by which you can put out all the burning arrows of the wicked one. With faith, you put out their attacks by faith. This is good when you read it in clarity. Let's do Salkinson's again. Above all, taking up the large body shield of faith with firmness, by which you shall have power to quench all the fire-burning arrows of the evil one. That's spiritual, it's not literal. I never saw anybody get hit with a fire arrow from Satan or anything. And take the defense helmet, Delich, and take the iron helmet of rescue, and Salkinson's is defense helmet of deliverance, salvation. Yeah, the helmet of salvation, I like that. And the slaughter sword, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of the Almighty. The slaughter sword of the Spirit, which is the spoken of Elohim. The spoken of Elohim, the word of the Lord. It's very clear. Praying at every season, now it's praying with all prayer and supplication at every time or season through the Spirit, and watch out for this with all long patience and prayer on behalf of all the set apart ones. Now, pleading, supplication, and keeping alert on the very things with all physical endurance and pleading, supplication for all the set apart ones. Remember how we pray at every broadcast for all the true believers, the households, right? Does it say to do that here? It does. Do you hear this elsewhere? I wish you did. Verse 19. and I really wish you did, and on my behalf, that a spoken word may be given to me in the opening of my mouth. Let's see, Delich, and on my behalf also that a word may be given into my mouth when it opens to announce with an open face the secret of the message of good tidings. It's pretty clear, but a little choppy for us, that a spoken word may be given, this is Salkinson, may be given to me in the opening of my mouth to make known with bold face. I like bold face better than open face. With bold face of boldness. The hidden secret of the good news. Yeah. It's hidden to only the elect, for which the others laugh at, for which I am an emissary, ambassador, in chain irons. Okay, Delich is, for which I am an emissary, or a shaliach, a messenger, or a malak, in chains, so that I may be bold to speak in it, as if it is right for me to speak. Chains, and then Salkinson goes on, that therein I may speak boldly, as I am what? Bounded? Boundden? We don't use that word in English. I am bounded, I am bound or obligated to speak. But that you also may physically know my affairs, Delich, and so that you will know my status and what I am executing. My affairs now I am doing. No, how I am doing. Okay, what he's up to, what he's doing. Tychius, the beloved brother and trustworthy servant, attendant in the master in Illinois, shall make all things known to you. So he's sending his trusted buddy, his student, I guess, whom I have sent to you for this very purpose, that you might know our physical state, and that he might comfort your inner hearts. Completedness, peace to the brothers, Delich. Peace to the brothers. I like peace to the brothers, or shalom, and love with trust from the Almighty, and love with firmness, faith from Elohim. Salkinson says, the Father, Elohim the Father, and the Master Yeshua, the Anointed One. Unmerited favor, okay, kindness be with all who love our Master. Unmerited favor means you didn't earn it, okay? It's not from works, it's from mercy and grace. So, and generosity. Unmerited favor be with all those who love our Adonai Yeshua, the Yeshua HaMashiach, in non-corruption, immortality. Amen. With a love that does not spoil. Amen. Yeah, spoil sounds better. So, Yeah, that was pretty. I think it was really interesting. Uh, it's when you're dealing with a raw translation, which is what I'm delivering here, is raw translations. Is you get um, it gets choppy in the English, like that one word I said I never heard of us using a word like that in English, and the reason I said it is because I never heard of us using that word. But yeah, so let's see what's doing in the live stream. And a good question is Trump going to attack him again tonight? I think knowing Trump, the way he's operating is, I think if if they do something stupid, which they might do and they might not do, um, in the Persian Gulf area, he'll attack them again during the night probably. Because remember, they're doing pot shots with their anti-aircraft guns. They're using the kind of guns that were still popular during the Vietnam War, the Viet Cong, and they had them. They had SAMs, which were a missile that you could get a lock on the plane, launch it, and it would chase the plane around using heat seeking. It was a hard. You could evade it. You could put chaff out there and stuff. It was rough. Uh, but you could get your plane taken down by the old anti-aircraft gun that was shooting like flak. They weren't trying to get a precise hit. They were trying to get near the plane, and then the pieces would blow up, and hopefully they'd hit the plane with some pieces. Planes are aircraft aluminum, and that's not armor. Could they build an armored plane? I don't know if it would fly. It would probably be, 5, 6 times heavier, at least 3 times heavier. I don't know. Maybe if they made one with 10 engines or something, they could get it up in the air. I have no idea. But it's more effective to do stealth because if you can't get a missile lock on the plane, which the real stealth jets, you're not going to get a missile lock on them yet, as far as I know. You can't get a missile lock on it, you're not going to bring it down. This business of shooting the guns at it, it's a lucky shot. But if they go in during the daytime and the Iranians could see them coming in, they could take those guns and start shooting, and they could get a lucky shot and bring down a plane or two. So that's one of the reasons why I think Trump is having the attacks overwhelmingly done at night. They're not going to see the plane at night. I mean, the plane's not going to put its lights on that are blinking blue or red, and why do that? It's your plane will go dark, and the cockpit controls are going to be, emitting a light. Usually, that's maybe red or some other color, so it doesn't detract the pilot's vision. Like on Navy ships, where the captain and the other officers are, they use a red light, and the instruments are often some kind of like red, or so when they go outside or they look through the periscope or something like that, um, they don't have to take a long time to adjust to the dark because the red doesn't affect your vision like that. So, all right, let's get a prayer out. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I pray for my wife and me and all the true believers in our households, that we would have your peace, safety, protection, joy, calm, rest, shalom, peace, and we would have your strength, stamina, and endurance, and we would have your healing and recuperative power flowing through us and for our animals and pets and ourselves. we would be safe, secure, happy, healthy, and whole. And I pray for the peace of Jerusalem. I pray that those of us that need housing or shelter find it. Those of us that need to change houses because the house isn't good enough, or there's problems with neighbors or landlords, etc., that they're able to change quickly and easily with a good deal. And I pray that um, I pray that those of us that need work find work, good work. Those of us that uh, need clients and customers find those. Those of us that, well, I also pray that we all have adequate money and then some, and I pray that we know the scriptures better, and I pray that I can do better work with the translations and improve it more, and I pray to be able to do better live streams and broadcasts in general. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Now some spiritual warfare, it'll be a little different. I submit to you, my Heavenly Father Jehovah, for me and my wife and all the true believers in our households and families, that if any one of these people have any unclean spirits in them, the unclean spirits are immediately kicked out, never to return again. They must be out now. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And if there's any witchcraft, sorcery, spells, enchantments designed to target any of these people, it too is cast null and void, of no value, no effect forever, shall never return in a similar or even a like fashion for all time. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay, so I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out. Oh, the other thing is Netanyahu is pushing this draft exemption heavily for the ultra orthodox, and that's not good in him. Very unhappy. All right, guys, I'm out. Thank you. Oops.